Our series, Show and Tell, will take you inside some of the great libraries, both public and private, to explore books and treasures from Jewish history. So you came in today you're returning items.
In this case, I'm returning, but not because I was dissatisfied. More because, Israel let me take a couple of things home to look at it for further research, and I am then returning it.
Okay.
Yes.
What do you got here?
Well, this is very interesting because there probably are not too many copies of this in the world. This is a kosher food guide from the OK Laboratories from 1937. One of the really cool things about Mizrahi books is that he's got just endless amounts of these things that, this might be the only copy in the world, that really tell lots of stories about history. I mean, this kind of tells us about an era when there was no organized kosher industry in America. People were still trying to feel out, how to observe kashrus. Is it going to be, through looking at ingredients or just having a general feel? And the OK was a...
This is the original, what we associate now with the OK.
Yeah, it's a successor. It's not run by this is the original guy, and it was really just one person named Abraham Goldstein, I believe.
Sure.
Who created like a scientific laboratory and a scientific...
He advocated to bring chemistry and science into food analysis.
Exactly,
kosher.
Into kosher, which historically, wasn't really part of it. It was all... wasn't really? I mean, it was all chazakas, and it was all kinds of things that didn't involve looking under a microscope. But he brought that in, and he was controversial from the rabbinic side.
Let me ask you. I always need to ask, and you're comfortable if I ask these questions.
Yeah.
How much is this worth? I mean, how do you price something like this? Like what?
There is no firm prices with these things, but it's a few $100s at tops. But usually something like this would probably end up in an institution. If I have several libraries I work with, and if there's a book they don't have, and if it's in their field, they would want it.
So show me what you have here.
All right, so this is a bound volume of 4 years of a periodical called Orthodox Youth, which was later...
It's like a teen magazine?
Well...
Directed for teenagers? Who's this for?
It was. I don't know if I would call it a teen magazine in the modern sense, but it was directed for young people, basically Agudis, people who were members of Tziri Agudis Israel or Benos Agudis Israel. Eventually was renamed the Orthodox Tribune. And
the original Mishpacha magazine, it sounds like.
Yeah, in some ways, exactly. And nothing like this really existed before that. It was purely Orthodox. Almost all American Jewish periodicals were not necessarily denominational. And this one was trying to express the Orthodox viewpoint. And there was kind of like through Agudis Yisrael, there was kind of like a revival in Brooklyn, in New York, and various other places. There was like youth movement springing up. And it has all kinds of coverage that I think much of it would be familiar today. Here, Gedolim of Eastern Europe to come to the U.S.
Which Gedolim was that referring to?
In this case, it was referring to people like Rav Aaron Cutler.
Although this is before Rav Aaron.
This
is December 1940.
This is before. In fact, there's even a page here that discusses how he's about to embark on a trip to Japan through Siberia, and it's going to be perilous. And then 2 months later, they say, Rabbi Aaron Cutler lands in San Francisco. He's here.
It was giving you
like Rosh Yeshiva. Yeah, like an update, exactly. It's full of articles of things that would become kind of like standard in American Orthodoxy, but at the time were novelties. So, for example, here is a story about Mr. Rosenberg, who is he used to be known as the Shatnez guy. And he created
Shatnez laboratory, he's the one who really brought this.
He actually was the first person to come up with a process, or rather to utilize a process to identify linen in clothes using, scientific test, chemistry. And he made it his life's passion to promote the observance of Shatnez, which kind of didn't exist at all. Nobody, if it didn't say linen, if it was, you're buying a wool suit, people assumed it was a wool suit. So here it shows him at with his microscope, telling you all about it. And there are frequent ads in this telling people, informing them about Shatnez and saying that they'll remove it free of charge. They'll give you this, this little tag that you can put in your suit.
It's so interesting to think about the shift in American Orthodoxy, where this was the period where we had to beg for observance. Like we were trying to build the
Right.
critical mass, and now like once you have the critical mass, then it can almost serve as like a boundary for people who aren't able to reach that.